Let's find somewhere to put the microphone. Hello. Can you hear me? Well, I look dead in this light. Well, hello and welcome to Spinster's Library Live Edition. I'm Claudia, and this is my 2,000 subscriber Q&A. Can you all hear me?
I can hear you, but it doesn't start for like another 30 seconds.
Okay, so you can't actually... What does that mean, it doesn't start for another 30 seconds?
I can hear you fine. It just means that not everyone's turned up yet.
Bill says not everyone's turned up yet, which is fair enough. There's currently 2 people watching, so I think we will wait for more people to show up before we start this thing officially. Yay, gets the Robin. She's in the chat, so hi Robin, hi Bill. So far, we could be doing this on Skype. Okay, it is officially 9 o'clock now, so I guess before we get into the questions, let me just tell you what's going on. My channel, Spinster's Library, just hit 2,000 subscribers. So I asked you guys for questions, and lots of people submitted some questions, and I'm going to go through them. I don't know what made me schedule this on a Saturday when I knew I was going to be at work all day, because I'm now rather tired. So I've a cup of tea here. More about this cup later. And I might just be ingesting a little bit of caffeine while we do this. Hello, Jellicle. Yay, people are starting to show up. This is great. Perfect. Okay, right. So now it's 9 o'clock and people are showing up on time, which I appreciate. I guess we'll get into the questions. Robin says, does it hold a decent amount of caffeine? Well, this is kind of weakish tea because it is 9 o'clock and I do intend to sleep tonight. So it's probably not a whole lot of caffeine in this mug. Let's get into the questions anyway. And I'll tell you more about the mug later. So we've got a decent amount of questions. So hopefully this isn't going to take too long. I've already mentioned I really need to go to sleep. But let's get started with those questions. So I know I'm going to mispronounce all of the names, so really sorry for that. But the first question is by Kotugirl Wirasekari, who asks, how do you choose your topics, please? Do you do any keyword searches or are they your personal topic choices? And then if you do keyword searches, could you please explain your process? Well, I don't do any keyword searches at all. I come up with video ideas using a kind of method that I explained in a video about coming up with video ideas for BookTube, but it's pretty much just my interests, and then try and make it about books somehow. And then once I've had an idea like that, I will usually search YouTube for it just to make sure that it hasn't already been done. So, for example, last year I did the cats and books tag. So I had this idea for a cats and books tag because I like cats and I like books. And I searched on YouTube just to make sure that there hadn't already been a cats and books tag, so I wouldn't be copying anyone else's idea. And then I just went for it. I don't really do any work just to see how I can get the most views on a certain video or anything like that. Similarly, when I was doing a video about Mary Bennett the other week, I just made sure that there wasn't a similar video already. So that's the way I use searches, just to make sure I'm not accidentally copying anyone. Hi, Harriet. Nice to see you. Let's move on to the next question. Mary Tumulty says, have either of your cats taken to hiding or snoozing in the banana? And if you're not in the know, this is the banana in question. It is a rather sizable banana-shaped cat bed, and no, my cats have so far completely ignored it, so a bit of a waste of money, that. But it's cute either way, and maybe at some point they'll start using it. Joe Smith says, Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Work, home, study, career, all that good stuff. Yeah, that's kind of, I don't like thinking about where I am in 5 years, because where I am in 5 years is likely really stressed and trying to finish my PhD thesis. I'm doing a part-time PhD, so it all takes a really long time to get there. And in 5 years' time, I'll likely still be finishing that. And in terms of place, geography, I definitely see myself back in my home country of Germany in 5 years' time. Some people are giving me some feedback about the banana. Robin says, but you hate bananas, which is true. I will absolutely refuse to eat because gross. And Jellicle says, move the banana around the house. It could be the location. Yeah, I've tried that. I've tried putting it in different places, but I will keep trying and shifting it around, and maybe at some point they will stop ignoring it. My cats are very, very spoiled. They have a huge selection of cat beds, and also obviously they own the human beds and the human sofas and the human chairs. So they're definitely spoiled for choice there. And maybe the banana just doesn't look as comfortable as their other options. Let's do another question. Isabel Flynn asks, I'd love to know your desert island books. If you were stuck on an island with only 5 books to read, what would you choose? That's actually quite a lot of books, isn't it? So if you're stuck on a desert island, you want to get long books, obviously, more to read. So my first pick would definitely be Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. That's the longest Harry Potter. It's over 1,000 pages long. And coincidentally, it's also my favorite Harry Potter. Definitely pick that. Then I'd probably get Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe, because it's about being stranded on an island. So maybe there's some good advice there. That doesn't involve enslaving other humans, which is what he ends up doing. Right, that's 2. 3 more books. I'd probably get Emma by Jane Austen, because it's the longest of her books and one of my favorites as well. And then maybe a book in another language, because I'd have all the time to learn another language just entirely from a book. Actually, is that even possible? I don't know. Let's say the other 2 books would be probably a book on like poisonous plants or something, just so I could survive on the island. And then a book about how to build your own boat. That's my choices. Remembered Reads asks, if you were writing a lightly fictionalized memoir, what would be your top contenders to leave as is or to very definitely alter? I think I'd be very good at lying in a memoir, because, you know, they're meant to be about your own life, but I'd probably make myself a bit taller. Yeah. Guest Spinster Roman says, and you also have a very beautiful hardback of Emma. You could look at the pretties. Yeah, I would show this off right now, but it's actually in my work bag, because I took my gorgeous edition of Emma to work today to read during my lunch break. Bilingual asks, if you could travel to a place described in a book, fictional or non-fictional, where would you choose? It's really hard not to just straight up answer Hogwarts to this question, because if I'm really truthful to myself, it would be Hogwarts. Why would you not want to go there out of any book? So let me think for a moment to see if there's another place that I would like to travel to in a book. No, it's got to be Hogwarts. Sorry, I know it's the boring answer. Jellicle says, if you are a mug, I'm not.
Discworld.
And Bill, my husband, shouts from downstairs, Discworld. Yeah, but the Discworld is really chaotic and dangerous. Actually, so is Hogwarts. Robin asks, I have a question. I've noticed you've got lots of new houseplants dotted about. How are you finding life as a plant mum? Oh, loving it. I was just this morning just repotting this little baby here. And yeah, it's good. The thing with houseplants is they're not as needy as I want them to be, because I keep checking the soil and it's fine. And I don't like ignoring them. Oh, by the way, you might think I'm a very neglectful houseplant mum, but the plants in the back, these 2 spider plants that I got to hold up my TBR, they are incredibly tasty to my cats. Both of them, both Beetle and Minerva, just nibble at them all day long. So these aren't going to survive for long. And I'm going to put something there that the cats aren't going to chew up. So yeah, house planting going great so far. My living room's looking more and more like a jungle every day. And Jellicle says, do you talk to your plants? No, not really. I don't think either of us benefits from talking to them. I talk to my husband and I talk to my cats, and some of them answer back as well, so that's nice. Let's get to some more questions from you guys. Alex Black asks, how did you get your cats? I'd be okay with their entire life stories, to be honest. You can have that. So 4 or 5 years ago, Bill and I we moved into this house 5 years ago, and we got a little kitten named Ajani. That's the first cat that we had as a couple, because before that we were living in a flat in Germany where we wouldn't have been able to have any pets. Now, unfortunately, Ajani, he was taken from a feral colony, and he came to us with a disease named FIP. And if you know anything about cats, you know that FIP is pretty much untreatable, uncurable, and very, very deadly. So poor Ajani died within a month of us having him, which was, slightly heartbreaking, as you can imagine. And after that, we knew that we wanted to get some cats again, but obviously we wanted to wait to make sure that the virus wasn't lingering in the house anymore. So we waited a while, and then it got really close to us actually planning our wedding. We were getting married in May. I knew this. Getting married in May, and just a few weeks before the wedding, we got a call from the local Cats Protection League saying that they'd found a litter of kittens, tiny kittens, just 1 or 2 weeks old, in a box. The box had been sealed up and put out on the road, as horrible people do. But someone luckily found the box, and we went to visit those kittens. They were bottle fed by a wonderful foster mom, and she looked after them. And then just a week before the wedding, she had a family emergency, and we offered to foster all 4 cats. So 4 tiny, they were at that point 9 or 10 weeks old, tiny kittens running around in this very office. 2 brothers, 2 sisters. And then at the end of that week, we adopted 2 of them, and that was Minerva and her brother Rex. And the other 2 went to a home together as well, so that was lovely. And then we had both of them. And if you are from the UK, you know that most people keep cats as outdoors cats here. So we had a smart cat flap that would only let our cats in or out. And then, unfortunately, 2 years ago, I came home from town one day, and Robin already says, "Oh, Rex." And I found Rex lying on the road, and he'd clearly just been hit by a car. So obviously I ran up to him. Yeah, it's 2 years ago in 2017, November of 2017. So I ran up to Rex lying on the road, and you could tell he was in a bad way. So I picked him up, still alive, and I ran up the road to the nearest vet with him. But by the time we'd actually got to the vet, Rex and me, he died. He did not survive me taking him to the vet. So that was pretty horrible, as you can imagine. Minerva and Rex were very close, brother and sister. They'd grown up together, and it was just absolutely heartbreaking to lose a cat like that. So from then on, Minerva stayed indoors, and she adapted all right. We leash trained her. We took her out on walks, and pretty soon we decided we needed to get her a friend. So we were asking around the local charities, the Cats Protection League, the local animal shelter, the RSPCA, and all of them said, "I'm sorry, we need cats to be able to go outside in order for you to have them." And we said, "We're not going to let our cats outside. We've just lost a cat who died a very slow and painful death on the road." So that wasn't great. But then one foster carer from the RSPCA got in touch with us saying that he'd had 3 kittens, a litter of 3, that were surrendered to him by a man who claimed to have found them in his garden. Now, this man already had half a dozen unneutered cats in his house, so it's very unlikely that he just found them in his garden. They were at the time 5 weeks old, so fully weaned already, and he brought them round to ours. And if it had been according to Bill, we would have kept all 3. But we wanted a cat that was a bit different from Minerva. Now, Minerva is very lively, very needy, very confident, very much like a dog cat, probably because she was bottle fed and she never grew up with a cat mother. But when this man came into this very office again, opened the cat carrier, 2 cats, a boy and a girl, came out, started playing, started purring, and then the other cat didn't want to leave the carrier and just stayed in there. We had to get him out. We had to open up the carrier and just physically get him out of there. And that's the one we picked. So we got Beetle because he was a bit of a pro, because he was very shy, very afraid of people, very afraid of everything. And it's just been amazing to see him kind of blossom into a more confident cat. He's now not afraid of everyone anymore. He's now not afraid of all the noises. He even goes outside sometimes on the leash, of course. And they've become sort of friends. They don't love each other, but they get on all right. There you go, Alex. That was like at least half of this live stream already spent on talking about my cats. But you know me, I could talk about my cats all day long. Robin says, Beetle is such a wonderful addition to your home. He is. He's adorable. He's just this. Bookish just asked a question in the chat. He says, do you have any plans to do any more famous author/time period hairstyles? Yes, I have got a little list on my phone. I can't remember them, but I think Emily Dickinson may have been one, and possibly George Eliot. And I think I wanted to do a Mary Shelley one as well at some point, but I really have to refine my hairdressing skills to do those videos, because it's really not my strength. I have got the long hair to do all of these hairstyles, but the hairdressing skills need some practicing. Let's see. Wild Book Garden, that's Cara, asks, what Jane Austen characters would Bela Minerva be? You know what? I think we should get them over. So I already prepared the treats jar, which, by the way, is like an ancient jar of Christmas flavored cat treats. Oh yeah, Bill says the other 2 kittens, Beetle's brother and sister, got adopted together as well. This is the noise that they know to mean treat. Come here. Come on. Beetle's very bad at jumping, so I might have to actually lift him up. There you go. There's one. He loves his treats. That's why he's a chonk. Yeah, there you go. Hello, Beetle. Say hello to the nice people of BookTube. And Minerva, come on. You can jump. Come here. All right, I guess Beetle's getting all the treats then. Go on, give me a bro fist. Good boy. What was the question? Oh, what Jane Austen characters would Bela Minerva be? Well, as I've already said, Bela's very afraid of everything, so he's probably going to be Mr. Woodhouse from Emma, because he's also afraid of everything. He's a bit of a hypochondriac, and he's worried about things all day long. Yeah, Beetle, do you want to let Minerva have some treats as well? Minerva, up. Lazy. There's Minerva, and Minerva is loud and attention-seeking, so she would probably be one of the bad girls. So she would be maybe Mrs. Elton or be a Caroline Bingley, which sounds really horrible because they're horrible people. But she just loves attention. Come on, bro. That was very half-hearted, Minerva. High five. Yeah. Right. Let's move on to the next question. Hello, a question not about the cats. So Nabil Alani asks, how did you meet your husband? So Bill and I met 9 years ago in London. We were both to a songwriters meetup because we both used to write songs. I kind of gave up on that because my music degree sucked all of the pleasure I ever got out of music out of me. He still writes the occasional song, but we were both part of a project called Form, which stands for February Album Writing Month. When I was trying to drink tea, so just take that off her. And the idea is, I mean, you'll be familiar with NaNoWriMo, and Form is a similar thing, but for songs. So you're supposed to write 14 songs in the 28 days of February. So we met after one of those projects at a meetup in London. That's a long time ago now. Let's get on to the next question. The Blank Garden asks, what is your favorite German-speaking author and or book? When it comes to German literature, I very much prefer German children's literature, maybe just for the nostalgia reason, because I'm away from home now. So reading German children's book makes me feel like, you know, the good days. Beetle, you can't have any more treats. You're already chunky. So my favorite German author would probably be German classics author Erich Kästner. I don't know if you've heard of him. I'm not sure how big he is outside of Germany, but he was a pretty big deal when it comes to, you know, sort of pre-war German children's literature. And yeah, his favorite book of mine is probably Das doppelte Lottchen, which is actually, you'll know that story as The Parent Trap. You know, the classic, when was it, 50s, 60s movie, The Parent Trap, and then the 90s remake. Those are based on his book, Das doppelte Lottchen. So look him up if you want to read some really good German children's literature. Ooh, next question. Alan Morton asks, when you named your channel, was that because you have committed yourself to lifelong spinsterhood, or can we expect a channel name change one day? The single most asked question I get ever is, why is your channel called Spinster's Library when you're married? And no one ever asks, why is your channel called Spinster's Library when you clearly record in an office? So I find that very interesting that people are so interested in my marital status, but not very interested in the fact that this is nowhere near a library. I mean, look at that. You can't call that a library. So the truth is, it's all a lie. I'm not a spinster. This isn't a library. Really, this should be called Married Ladies Office, but it's just not as catchy. So there won't be a name change soon, Alan, and I'm afraid you have unmasked me as a liar. Amber on a Bridge asked a ton of questions, so let me just go through them. The first question, what kind of art do you like? Or what do you find aesthetically pleasing? I find that very difficult to answer because I'm not a very visually talented person. So I don't really appreciate art as much as I should. I can't even give you like an artistic era or anything like that I enjoy. I don't have a favorite artist. It's just not something I connect with. But the second question, what is your favorite food? Now that's more my area. Jimmy, who is guest spinster Robin's fiance, so I guess he'd be, oh yeah, she's also not a spinster, so that's also a lie, says that's a cop-out answer. Yeah, I know, Jimmy, but maybe I just need to read some more books about art. Back to Amber's question, what is your favorite food? I love a lot of food and I love a lot of it. I'm a really good cook. I'm a really good eater. I'm not very picky. I just like really good food. But I think my favorite dish ever would have to be my family recipe lasagna. It's a recipe that's been passed down through my Italian family and I have perfected it, even though my mum probably thinks that her version is better. It's not true, mine is. Next question from Amber is, if you had to go to outer space or the depths of the ocean, which would you choose and why? And obviously I'd go to outer space. Like Amber, I'm a Doctor Who fan, so outer space, you know, has a special fascination for me. When is your birthday? My birthday is on the 12th of August, so I will expect birthday cards from you all. What is the first remember reading? It's a German children's book called Die dumme Augustine, and I don't know who wrote it. I can't remember the author's name. I mean, I never knew the author's name, let's be honest. But I remember it was this weirdly second wave feminist story about a clown's wife who goes to work for him who goes to work in his stead when he has a toothache, and everyone's like, well, you can't be a clown, you have to look after all of your clown children. And then she's like, why shouldn't women be clowns? Yeah, it clearly influenced me more than I'd like to admit. Next question from Amber is, what is a favorite quote of yours from a book? And I always liked the quote, the Oscar Wilde quote, we are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars, which is, I think, from Lady Windermere's Fan. And then finally, what would be the top of a sitcom about Beadle and Minerva? And I really can't come up with a good title. I asked my husband Bill earlier what he would suggest, and his suggestion is Chonk and Slonk, because Beadle is a bit of a chonk, and Minerva is the opposite. Oh, Lonk and Chonk. Sorry, Bill. You better go and copyright that now, I guess. Let's have a look at the chat. Extra Hero says, how are you so good at guessing who the murderer was going to be in Lethal White? This is referring to a video I did about me reacting to the book Lethal White. And it looks like I'm really good at guessing who the murderer is. But if you look at that video, I pretty much suspected every single character in the book. So of course I was going to get it right. And at the end, it looks like I've been so clever, but actually I've just suspected all of them at some point. We've got some questions from Mary Tumulty. The first question is, what prompted you to leave Germany and head to Wales? So I was studying music in Germany. Bill and I were living in a small, really tiny flat above an Australian-themed bar. And my degree wasn't going so well. I was studying at a conservatoire, so that's a heavily performance-focused music college, music university. And I was really not very good at it until the university suggested that I quit. Basically, it was kind of like, either I quit or I'm going to get thrown out. So I failed my first degree. And then Bill and I decided to move to the UK, for a bit of a change of scene. And I ended up in Wales, to be completely honest, because tuition's cheaper here. But I really like the university I'm at. I really like the corner of the world that I'm in. So I'm happy I made that choice, even though I really do want to go back to Germany as well. Mary's second question is, you speak English so beautifully. Did you learn it as a very young child or later in your schooling? I learned English. I started learning English when I was in secondary school. So that's when I turned 10. But I learned most of my English from watching Doctor Who as a teenager and from reading English language books. And then the third question is, when you reviewed your viewership data of your Brexit videos, I was so disappointed to see the male-female differential. Do you have a theory as to why your presumably literate female viewers didn't display more interest in a discussion of the future of the UK? So this is referring to a video I did in which I show you my analytics. And if you look at my subscribers, they are huge majority female. I don't have many male subscribers. And then if you look at the analytics for a video I did about Brexit, they are about 95% male. But the Brexit video has about 10 times the number of views that my other videos get. So my BookTube videos get around 300 views on average. But the Brexit video got way over 3,000 views. So my subscribers still watch that video. Just assume that 250 women watched that video as well. But on top of that came 3,000 men who weren't subscribed to me, but who searched specifically for Brexit videos. And the majority of them, I'm afraid, kind of just to leave nasty comments and to troll and to get into arguments about it. So it's not that my female viewers weren't interested in the Brexit videos, it's that it attracted a lot of attention from outside my nice little BookTube bubble. There's an interesting discussion going on about language learning. Bill says basically everyone in Europe can speak two languages fluently unless you're English. It's not entirely true. I know that my Italian relatives don't tend to speak other languages as much as my German relatives, for example, but we do tend to learn a second language more seriously, I guess, in Germany than people do in England. Now, of course, in Wales, the majority of kids growing up here are bilingual anyway, speaking Welsh and English. So I guess there's less incentive for them to learn a third language in school. But if you have any questions about Welsh education system, post them in the comments, because guess Spencer Robin is actually a qualified teacher. So let's move on to the next question by Laura Wichello. And she asks, do you and your husband read books together and discuss what you read? Very rarely. He doesn't really read books, and he certainly doesn't really read fiction. We sometimes do this thing where I will recommend a book to Bill, and he will recommend a video game to me because he's, his favorite type of entertainment. Bill, if you troll like that, you're going to have to ban yourself. And when we do these kind of swaps, I will play the video game that he suggested while he reads the book. So we'll be sitting on the sofa together, me playing a video game that I'm really bad at, and Bill reading a book and getting distracted every 5 minutes. That's the closest we ever get to sharing our, favorite forms of entertainment. Yeah, that's right. I'm enjoying the chat ganging up on Bill for calling us nerds. Just go ahead. Laura also asks, what's your favorite comfort film? And I'm not much of a film watcher. I prefer watching television because I always say, like, I don't really have a good attention span, and television comes in nice, manageable chunks. But I do enjoy the classic mid-2000s teenage film. You Mean Girls, Legally Blonde. I rewatch Bend It Like Beckham like every few years. So I guess those would probably be my comfort films if I had some. The third question is, what kind of personalities do Beetle and Minerva each have? And I think I've already talked about my cats enough in this. Beetle is very shy, very afraid of everything. He gets spooked very easily. If there's a noise, then he's just bolting under the sofa or under the bed. And Minerva is very loud, attention-seeking. When we have people over, she's all over them. She's a very needy cat, very much more like a dog than a cat. Robin asks, She's the Man. Did you ever watch that? No, I've never seen She's the Man. Ooh, Extra Hero has an interesting Harry Potter related question. Do you think we, as in the internet, bullied Rowling off Twitter? So J.K. Rowling, author of the Harry Potter books, hasn't been seen on Twitter since January, I believe. And it's coincided with a lot of people having a lot of criticism, some valid, some a bit kind of mean and trolling. And I mean, to be fair, if I was her, I'd have enough of Twitter as well. I think, I don't think she needs to subject herself to her fans. I know we as fans often feel like we have a right to get certain answers or to have an author behave in a certain way, but really they are just people. And I think a lot of fans of my generation were slightly disappointed that J.K. Rowling isn't perfect, and maybe some of us didn't react in the best way. So yeah, I can't blame her. And I do think it's that that people like other fans maybe are slightly responsible for her having had enough of the internet. Let's get back to Laura's question. She asked, is there a political movement or figure throughout history or contemporary that inspires you the most? And as I was thinking about this, I realized that I don't really get inspired as such by real people or real political events. I'm doing a history-focused PhD, and I look back at history. I read all of these things from 200 years ago, and I think, well, that's interesting. That's how people were. And I see parallels between 1819 and 2019. And the whole old history repeating itself thing is definitely true, but I don't really draw inspiration from that. Though I will say that one person whose writing I find fascinating and who comes closest to inspiring me, if you want to call it that, is Mary Shelley's mother, Mary Wollstonecraft. If you haven't read any of her writing yet, I highly recommend you do. Let's get on to the next question. Dancing Lawn says, what is your favorite German author or book? I've already answered that. So if you go back to earlier in the video, I talked about E. Kästner. Bella the Reader asks some question about my studies. So that's seamless, as if I planned this. She says, what did you major in as an undergraduate? Now, in Europe, we don't really have this major minoring system. So my degree is in music. And during my undergraduate, I did a dual focus on performance which was on my instrument, the classical guitar, which I kind of regret. I'm not very good at it. And I also then focused on musicology, which is the history and study of music. So like art history, but for music. Her second question is, I'm not quite sure how a PhD works in England, but here in the US, it involves a research project or a long paper, a dissertation. If you're doing a big project or a paper, what is the subject matter? So even though Wales is not in England, the PhD system is very much the same. And we call this big paper a thesis. And my thesis is on the place of the guitar in the early 19th century Britain between 1800 and 1830, specifically as a domestic instrument for women. And her third question is, what is your end goal in attaining a PhD? Teaching, doing research, industry, or for fun? Yeah, definitely not for fun. When I started this PhD, I fully intended to have a career in academia. But even just 2 years in, I'm getting very much disillusioned with the whole industry. And the more we as a society are poorer off, the more that funds are being cut to universities, the more humanities get kind of pushed to the wayside, because let's be honest, if you're going to invest in something in the university, it's sciences and not humanities. So I don't really see myself having a bright future as a humanities lecturer. But since I've still got a lot of time to decide what I want to do with my life, I'm just not going to think about it until we get to that. The truth is, a PhD is useful even if you don't end up as an academic. And maybe I will. A lot can change in 6 to 7 years, which is when I'll realistically finish. Jellicle, who is still in the chat, I think, asks, what are your plans for post-grad life, and do you think you will be staying in the UK? Well, I've just said I don't really know. It's all up in the air. It really depends on the job market after I graduate. And I don't think I will be staying in the UK long term. I would very much like to move back to Germany. Second question is, talk about food. Yes, I will. What are your favorite German dishes, or do you have another favorite type of cuisine? My favorite German dish is a very local dish to where I'm from called Schupfnudeln. And it is, if you can imagine it, a potato dumpling, like a small potato dumpling shaped a bit like gnocchi, like it's kind of like gnocchi but softer. And that's fried traditionally in a smoked Black Forest ham, which is like a cured bacon type thing. And then also with some sauerkraut, which is a fermented cabbage. And it sounds absolutely vile if you've never had it, but it's the most delicious thing. I do like all sorts of different cuisines, but German cuisine and Italian food is what I know best, because I grew up with Italian parents, but in Germany. And then Jellicole's third question is, your English is perfect. Thank you. Do you and your husband speak German or English at home? And are the cats bilingual too? Well, my husband and I speak English at home. He does speak some German. Fun fact, Bill actually lived with my parents in Germany without me living there. So I was away at university, living in a shared flat with some other students. And he was living in my old bedroom at my parents' house. Now, my parents don't speak any English whatsoever, so Bill had to learn German. And his German's all right. He can talk to my mum. That's good enough. And the cats, I guess, if they are bilingual, anything, it will be Welsh and English. But no, I don't think they know any German. Beetle. They know their names. Bill says, fun fact, the German for do you want chicken sounds a lot like do you want squirrel? And I was very confused. Yes, so my mum said to him one day, willst du ein Hähnchen? Meaning, do you want some chicken? But what he understood is willst du Eichhörnchen, which doesn't sound anything like that, which means do you want a squirrel? So Jellicle says, essential to be able to talk to the mother-in-law. Yeah, Bill gets on with my mother-in-law, his mother-in-law really well, even though they speak different languages. And we've gotten to the last question, which is good because this is getting long. Mostly because I keep talking about my cats, I'm sorry. Alexandra Davidovich says, who's your favorite Jane Austen hero? So she specifies your favorite among the main male love interests. And I love me Henry Tilney. I think he's lovely. He likes books. He's really funny. He's one of the few Jane Austen heroes who actually makes jokes. And, he's kind of, I think he deserves better than a Catherine, but I guess she's sweet. But Henry Tilney is my Jane Austen hero. Although I wouldn't say no to Mr. Knightley either. And then the other question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Which I think I've answered. I see myself in a nice, pleasant, well-paid job in Germany. That was all the question. So let's see if there are any more in the chat. If not, then I would just briefly like to show off the t-shirt I'm wearing, which really my hair's been covering. I should have thought about this. So you see what's on my t-shirt? It's Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet as cats. So this is something I've been doing. I want to say I designed, but that's just not true because I paid a designer to do this. As I've already made clear, I know nothing about art. I can't draw. I can't visualize anything. But I had this idea about getting t-shirts that have got classic literature and cats combined, because obviously I like both of those things. And so I hired a designer to do that, and you can actually get those t-shirts. There's this one, which is the Jane Austen one. You can also get this, by the way, with a little quote. The quote is from a different scene in the book. So this is obviously Mr. Darcy and Lizzie Bennet standing in front of Pemberley. But I added the quote, he is a gentleman and I'm a gentleman's daughter, so far we are equal, which is one of my favorite quotes from books, even though it's not the same scene. And I also made this design, which is from the picture of Dorian Gray as cat. So you can see Dorian Gray here looking at his cat portrait. And to that, I've added the quote, I am tired of myself tonight. I should like to be somebody else. And then the third design that I did, that I thought of, was Frankencat, I guess, which I've got here on a hoodie, which is way too warm to wear. And I love this. This is my favorite. It's, Frankenstein cat making a Frankenstein monster cat. Very, very cute. So if you want to get those, well, Jellicle says, time to open an Etsy. Well, actually, on Etsy, you're not allowed to sell things that you didn't design yourself. And it did hire a designer to do these things. So I don't want to just pretend like I drew them myself. I had the idea, visualized it, and then I asked someone to do this. But you can get it on here. See, I've already prepared this. So this is on Teespring, teespring.com/stores/spinsters-library-sale. Yeah, I thought clever because the library sale is a thing. So I was like, Spinster's library sale. So if you go on there, hold it up again, you can get those. And I'm not intending to make like a huge profit from this, but it would be nice to get the cost back from hiring the designer. Bill says we should make a shorter URL for that. Fine, go ahead. So like I said, you can get the 3 designs, the Frankenstein, the Dorian Gray, and the Pride and Prejudice. You can get them on like different types of clothing, mugs, tote bags, and with or without the quote. So if you want the quote on there, then you can get it with the quote. If you want it without the book quote, then you can get it without the book quote. I got mine without the book quote because I like to confuse people. But if you want to make it very clear what that's from, then you get with the quote. So go and check it out. Maybe you know someone who would appreciate some books and cats merchandise. Oh, by the way, this is not Spinster's Library merchandise. Like, no point does it say anywhere on this, does it say Spinster's Library. This is not to like promote this channel or anything. If anything, it's the other way around. I'm using this channel to promote the t-shirts. So go and check them out. And you might have another cat lady in your life or cat gentleman who also appreciates some classic literature. I also saw another question in the chat. So let me just go up. Oh yeah, Extra Hero says, before you go, I can't just name all the cats, can I? You know what? August Filch, let's give him some credit. He takes his job, which he thinks is torturing children, very seriously. Tom Riddle, Lord Voldemort, he's such a fascinating character, and I'd have to list Snape as well. Very, very interesting character. But you can't beat the ultimate cat lady, Professor McGonagall. Hence why I named my cat Minerva. Okay, so yeah, Bill's already planning to change the URL, which he's very welcome to if he wants. I'll also put that link in like the description box to this video if I figure out how to do that after I've done this. Let me just show off this mug again. I love this. My tea's gone cold. Like, I should have thought about this. Are there any more questions for a good night and go to bed? Oh, Jellicle likes the t-shirt. I'm so glad you like them because I'm so proud of them, and it's ridiculous because, like I said, but I searched for, you know, Pride and Prejudice and Cats t-shirt, and I couldn't find any. So yeah, as much as anything, I just wanted to wear this because look at it. It's got a little bonnet. Very cute. Jen says, say something in Welsh. Oh, this is really embarrassing. I don't speak Welsh. Robin, what can I say in Welsh? Diolch yn fawr. Was that pronounced well, Robin? She speaks Welsh. Bore da. Yeah, that means good morning, doesn't it? Or good afternoon. Yeah, as you can tell, my Welsh is not great. The job that I work at, actually, in a shop, we get a lot of children, a lot of families, and children here tend to speak Welsh as their first language. So I understand a lot of what the parents say to the children. You know, mostly like sit down, stay still, shut up, those kinds of things. But I don't really speak much myself. Robin says, yes, da iawn, which means well done. So thank you, diolch. And Robin also asks, I'd like to know how you're getting on in your Goodreads reading challenge. Please don't remind me of that. I've set myself a goal of 60 and I'm nowhere near. And Bill says, so you don't get no Welsh for stop throwing shoes on the floor? No, because parents never tell the children to stop throwing shoes on the floor. They just let them get on with it. Anyway, after that slightly salty end to this, I'm going to say goodnight. I need to work tomorrow as well, unfortunately. Please go and check out the Teespring shop and share the link if you know anyone you think might be interested in that. Thank you so much for joining me for this slightly longer than intended Q&A, and I guess I'll see you for the next one. I really like doing these live videos, but I'm not going to do them too often. So I guess maybe when I hit the next milestone, whatever that's going to be. And Robin says, nos da, which is good night. So nos da to you all, and thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching. Bye. Do you want to end your screen? Yes.